The truth that destroyed the marriage. Michael sat on the edge of the bed. He was enjoying one of his favorite activities, watching his wife of 30 years, who was getting ready for an evening of dinner and then dancing. This time was different from all the others. This time, as he enjoyed watching her, he was almost overwhelmed with sadness. She's prettier tonight than she's ever been in all the time I've known her, he thought. Dawn was going to turn 50 tomorrow, and since they had planned a family party to celebrate her birthday with her 2 children and their families, this evening was going to be a private celebration just for the 2 of them. As she sat at the dressing table, he deliberately looked over her face and body. She's still good, he pondered. Gorgeous hair, beautiful face, and the same trim figure she's worked so hard to maintain over the years. And don't forget that wonderfully shaped ass she teases me with all the time. He felt his pride and love for her deeply, and then sadness crept back into his heart. He was a practical guy. He prided himself on his analytical skills. If there was a problem, especially at work, he was the person to go to for an answer. It might not be the quickest answer, but you could rely on the fact that it would be the most logical and well-thought-out answer. Unfortunately, that was why he sat on the edge of the bed in their bedroom and watched with a heavy heart as his wife got ready for the evening. Is this really the last time I get to enjoy her doing this? I still love her with all my heart, body, and soul. What did I do wrong? Why couldn't I have seen this coming in time to do something about it? Am I right? Do I really know her? The questions seemed to roll over and over in his head and then back again as if they were ripples across a pond. He knew that this evening would be the most important crossroads in his life. The turning would be for him either a new beginning or the end of his life as he now knew it. He had been planning this for over 2 weeks now, and this evening was the perfect opportunity for him to have the most important conversation of his life between him and his wife. He had spent countless hours trying to figure out how they had gotten to this point in their marriage. He had discovered so many things over the past few weeks. As his thoughts became clearer, there were more and more signs that clearly indicated that maybe they weren't the couple everyone thought they were. Again, he regretfully listed them carefully in his mind to see if perhaps he had missed something or even misunderstood what he had done. For months, I'm not sure exactly when it started, she was distant and distracted beside me. Looking back, I realized that our love life was slowly but steadily declining to the vanishing point. Then there were moments when she overreacted to something minor I did wrong and royally trashed me. The moments when she was clearly lying about where she was and who she was with were particularly disturbing. Charging her credit card for dinner for 2 at Jolly's restaurant that night, when I knew I wasn't with her, was a clear signal to me that maybe I wasn't the only one she was thinking about. However, the last 2 weeks had been a period where my suspicions became even more real. Almost in the blink of an eye, she changed. She is now attentive to my every word and need. Now she seems eager to make love at every opportunity. Now she wants to be the wife and companion she hasn't been in so long. What happened this time? It's driving me crazy. I can't understand why she changed all those months ago, and again I can't understand why she changed again. But in each case, it's obvious to me that neither woman is the woman I married and loved all those years ago. Where has this wonderful, caring, and loving woman gone, and will I ever be able to find her again? What it is about this woman I don't know and what led to her creation. I don't like either of these 2 women. That's enough, that's enough. It's time to put this show on tour, as they say. Honey, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much I love looking at you, Mike said. You are so beautiful, baby girl. You know I love and adore you. I have always loved you and always will. Dawn looked in the mirror at Mike's reflection with a curious expression on her face. Thank you, Mike. I don't know what prompted you to say that, but I want you to know that I love you just as much. Dawn looked at her husband carefully. I wish I knew what has been bothering him so much lately. It seems the more I try to work on our relationship, the more withdrawn and aloof he seems. With a mental sigh, she thought, I just have to keep trying. I'm not going to give up on us. I just love him so much, and I want him to love me the same way. I wonder if you really do love me as much as I love you, Mike muttered quietly. What did you say, Michael? You've been mumbling a lot the last couple weeks. I really want you to speak up. Looking at her face, he said, I wonder if you really love me as much as I love you. The look on her face would have been amused in most other circumstances. The shock of his words left her mouth open and gulping for air. With her mouth, with resentment in her voice, she asked, Why would you say something like that? How could you even think of something like that, let alone say it out loud? Honey, he said, we really need to talk. We have a little time before we leave, and I have something I want to say to you, and some questions. I don't need an answer yet, but I definitely want answers before the night is over. Of course, you can ask me any questions you want. I have no secrets from you because you are my husband, my soulmate. Michael almost laughed out loud. The tension in his body was so strong that he felt like a wire stretched to its limit. Dawn, I want you to listen to me carefully. I have a number of questions and some statements I want you to listen to, and I don't want any answers right now. I would prefer that you take the time during our night to carefully consider your answers. It will be a difficult request, but you really need to know that the life of our marriage depends on your truthful answers. He wants a divorce. I had no idea it could go this bad. Dawn gasped, but as her husband had asked, she kept her comments to herself. Michael carefully and methodically went through his questions and statements about his fears that something was seriously wrong with their relationship. First, you basically cut me out of your life for several months. Then, for the past 2 weeks, you've been acting like you're my slave, and you've been trying your hardest to fulfill my every need, including any need I might desire in our bedroom. Your mood swings were spectacular and completely unpredictable. I've been walking for months, as if I were treading a minefield, with your emotions ready to explode at the slightest misstep. You've lied to me more than once about where you've been and who you've been. And the final nail in that old coffin of a marriage was paying for dinner for 2, and I'm damn sure I wasn't with you then. So where am I going with this? I think you're having an affair. I think your affair recently ended, and you think you can jump from his bed back into mine. So the questions are, 1, do you want a divorce? 2, do you love him? 3, how many times and with how many guys have you cheated? 4, do you want to stay in the marriage, and if so, will you continue to cheat further? And 4, what reason or reasons can you give me to convince me that I want to stay married to you? Dawn just sat there. Michael thought she was showing tremendous control. He did place a great emotional burden on her. Dawn wasn't showing control. She was just at a loss for words. Michael stood up and said, Dawn, finish getting ready and I'll meet you downstairs. We have to hurry or we'll be late for dinner. Somehow she was able to finish her preparations and meet Michael downstairs. Somehow she was able to survive the evening, and after Michael reminded her that he didn't want to discuss his charges any further for the rest of their evening, she was able to almost enjoy the time she had with her husband. She had indeed had too much to drink, and by the time they got home, she was only ready for sleep and nothing else. She was mentally exhausted and, having consumed alcohol, she knew she was in no condition to continue a conversation with her husband. So, she complained of fatigue and a headache. She quickly changed into her nightgown and climbed onto her side of the bed. Fortunately for her, she fell asleep instantly. Michael decided that he would postpone the discussion until morning and, wasting no time, went to bed. And surprisingly, he was able to fall asleep quickly and slept soundly all night. The next morning, Michael got up first, took a shower, went to the kitchen and started making breakfast. He started making coffee first, as he knew from years of experience that Dawn would come in soon, as she almost always did, because she wasn't the type to stay in bed for long. When she entered the kitchen, he was sitting at the table. "Can I get you a cup of coffee? Do you want some toast or something?" "Yeah, I want coffee, Michael. Thanks for the offer, but I don't think my stomach's ready for anything yet. Last night, with all that was said and done, and with alcohol on top, my stomach would rather do without breakfast." "Dawn, last night it was my turn to put all this crap on the table where we can really figure out where we're going and whether or not we're going to be together. This morning it's your turn, so I'm giving you the floor, and we'll see what's what." "Michael, I've been thinking a lot about what you said last night. I heard you when you emphasized the importance of truthfulness and candor in my answers. First, I want you to know that you are the only man I have ever loved, and that you are the only man I have ever slept with since our wedding day. I'll try to tell you in the same order you asked, as far back as I can remember. No, I never wanted a divorce from you. There is no lurking lover in the background, so I can easily say that I don't love this person who doesn't exist. Again, I have never cheated on you since we got married, so there is no army of men I have slept with to confess to you. I want to stay married to you more than life itself, and I will remain faithful to you until death finally do us part. That credit card charge was just a business dinner that you either forgot about, or worse, I forgot to mention to you. Finally, the only reason you would want to stay married to me is because I love you. I love only you with all my heart, body, and soul. It's my fault for being away from you for so long. And it's also your fault for being away from me. I believe we both went through a dry spell in our marriage and just didn't realize it at the time. Lately, I've started to realize again why I love you, and for the past 2 weeks I've been trying to smother you with my love. It was my way of reigniting a fire that we had let almost go out." Michael looked up into Dawn's face, looking her straight in the eye. Dawn met his gaze with a calm face and never flinched once from his direct stare. "Michael, you should know that I love you and only you." Michael continued to stare at his wife, then his face slowly changed. The expression of deep sadness and loss grew and grew until he looked like he was going to just die. "Michael, what's wrong? Are you sick?" Dawn was getting more anxious by the second. "Do I need to call 911? Finally, Michael began to speak in a low, monotone voice. "Dawn, I love you with all my heart and soul. I was hoping that we could finally be honest with each other. I think you just can't or won't be honest with me. I gave you every opportunity because I really wanted to stay married to you for the rest of our lives." Mike's voice began to grow stronger, and it was easier to hear the note of anger in his tone. "I'm sure I did everything I could to save our marriage, and I know you didn't do your part." Michael reached into his desk drawer, pulled out a large manila paper envelope, and handed it across the table to his wife. "Dawn, I still love you, but love is not enough, and I don't want to be your husband anymore. I've filed for divorce. You need a lawyer. I don't want to see you or talk to you ever again. I'm going to pack some things, and I'll be leaving soon. I have to say I'm sorry, but since I don't believe you're sorry, I don't see any reason to think so. You made your bed, and now you'll have to sleep in it without me forever." Michael slowly got up and went straight upstairs, where he began to gather his clothes and toiletries. He had already gotten a hotel room, and on the advice of his attorney had made all the necessary financial arrangements to begin separating himself from his soon-to-be ex-wife. Dawn didn't realize what was happening. She was so stunned by Michael's words and actions that she was unable to act. She just sat at the kitchen table while Michael packed his things. When he left, she continued to sit motionless at the table for almost an hour. Finally, she managed to drag the dreaded envelope to her. She opened the flap and pulled out papers that clearly spelled out the end of her life with Michael. Why didn't he believe me? Why did he think such a terrible thing about me? I know we can work this out, but he didn't even give us a chance. Dawn looked at the paper without reading it, and then noticed that something was still in the envelope. It looked like a photograph, so she tugged and pulled it out. It was a picture of her making love to another man. The photo clearly showed that she was on the marital bed in her own home. The photo also clearly showed that the man was not Michael. A scream escaped her lips. She realized that Michael knew. She thought that she had lied so carefully and so skillfully about her affair with Phil and that Michael would believe her. She ended the affair and honestly tried to repair the damage to her marriage and her husband. She didn't realize then, as she does now, that the only way to save her marriage was to be sincere and honest. Of course, since she had cheated on her husband, honesty and truthfulness were not among her top personal qualities. The bitterest pill to swallow was that her husband had left and was never coming back. She was sure that Michael would keep his word and that divorce was the only solution he would find acceptable. She was also sure that she had truly lost the only man she had ever truly loved. The final sad fact was that the affair, with all its marvelous sex, had not been worth a single moment of the time she had spent with her husband. She was reminded of her vows at their beautiful, lavish wedding, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. It was the final arrow that had plunged into her heart and finally delivered some of the pain her husband had been experiencing these past weeks. This pain couldn't compare to his, but it was the worst pain she had ever felt. She knew she was a cheater. She had cheated on her husband, their children, and their entire family. She would be a cheater now and for the rest of her life. Her whole family looked at her and saw her as nothing but a cheater. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you!